Thank y'all for joining us on today's webinar. My name is Katie Galan. I'm the Director of Education and Community Engagement for BBB, serving the heart of Texas. And we do these webinars every single month. They're always free of charge. And we like to kind of keep the schedule of the last Thursday of the month, and that's usually how it works out. So that's what we're doing here today. So just keep on the lookout for the new webinars that are coming up. I don't know if I'm going to have one in June yet. If I do, it'll probably be scheduled in about the next week or so, but we are definitely having one in August and for the remainder of the year. So keep a lookout for those. It's always, we always try to present information that is just relevant business information, things that are things that are very practical that you can put to use right away for your business to really help you out. And so today we have Terry Moten with us. So Terry, if you've ever been on one of our webinars, Terry is an expert a lot of the times for us because she is just such a great business resource for us at BBB and also for y'all as people who are owning businesses or running businesses. And so Terry Moten is the Director of Sales and Marketing for Spherion Staffing and Recruiting. And so today we're going to be talking about retention, workforce retention, which we know that is a really big problem or a really big challenge for a lot of businesses, especially kind of in the market that we're in right now. And so Terry's going to go over some solutions to kind of help you guys. So some workforce retention trends, what's driving turnover in 2025, and some practical strategies and low cost retention ideas that you guys can put to use for your business right away. So with all that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry. Oh, before I do that, if you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and put that in the chat section. Let me make sure that is enabled for y'all. Okay, it is now enabled for y'all. So any questions or comments, go ahead and put that in the chat, and then we'll get to that at the end of Terry's presentation.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you were able to come and join. My name is Terry Moten, and I am actually known kind of through the area just as a super connector. And I am all about connecting people to and businesses to the resources and other types of people that they need to have, that they need to know. So, Katie, thank you for always seeing me as a resource and allowing me to jump on. Today, I want to talk to you. I know business owners, you are struggling. Many are with employee retention. A number of things that are impacting employee retention, but today I want to be able to give you some ideas that regardless of your size, and I know many of you are probably under 50 employees, for sure under 100 employees, but I want to give you some very tangible and tactical ideas that you can implement and start being able to increase your employee retention. What I'm going to do is, and if you see here, I think Katie has dropped in, I did provide my slide deck. So if you wanted to kind of click on that and be able to go along, this is very interactive. If you do have a question as I'm going along, please drop it in the chat because I want to be able to answer it in real time as I'm going through. So let me share my screen, and as I'm doing so, let me just let you know a little bit about me. I am by day, I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for Spherion Staffing and Recruiting for South Central Texas. I also do AI training as well, training businesses, organizations, individuals on how to use AI just kind of in their everyday life from a business standpoint. And as I get ready here, and let me share my screen because as I get older, I can't seem to multitask and talk and look at a screen at the same time. I want to make sure I'm pulling up the correct window. Now, if you would just let me know, I just want to make sure, Katie, that you can see my PowerPoint. Okay, perfect. So we're going to dive in. And again, I want to talk more, strategy with you all today. We want to look at why retention matters and why it's now more than ever. Even here in the staffing industry, one of the things we've noticed, and it's a number of things, especially with things that are going on in the economy, I've had a number, of people who had, were at one, they were looking at doing staffing. And we had gotten to the kind of the end of the line where they were getting ready to, move forward with an agreement. And they were like, hey, there's just too much movement right now in the economy. We're just not sure. And so I know the economy is affecting a lot of you all. Again, maybe some uncertainties. Some of you, depending on the type of business you have. And if you don't mind, as I'm talking, drop in the chat what type of business you have and where you're located. Depending on the type of business you have, you may be, affected by tariffs and things like that. The other thing is that the hiring kind of process, looking and sourcing candidates it has changed. So it's now so very important to hold on to everybody that you have. And especially, those employees you want to keep, because some of you may have some people you want to get off of the bus, but you really want to hold on to who you have. So again, it matters now because one, it's not about finding people because you can find people, but it's about keeping them because especially post pandemic, people are just in a very different mindset as well. Employees are in a different mindset. They will leave much more quickly a job that there's the slightest friction in, the slightest unhappiness in than they would have before the pandemic. Hiring costs are rising. Many of you, if you're using job boards, if you're doing things like Indeed, those costs are going up as you're trying to find a good hire. Again, just the labor market is also very tight. This was a surprising um number for me, statistic for me, as I was kind of putting information together. And I knew, just again being in the staffing industry, I knew that there are a lot of people who are out there at any given time looking to move to another position. But you can pretty much rest that 51%, so half of your employees right now are probably out there actively looking. Half of them, some of them you may know about, many of them you may not know about. It surprises me how when I'm out in the community, I might be out at a networking event or something like that, and somebody will come and say, hey Terry, can you help me, look for a job? And it's somebody who I thought was very happy with what they were doing. So retention now is a competitive advantage. You want to be able to say and tout, hey, our employees, on average have been here 5, 10, 15 years. You want to be able to say that to, when you're trying to attract new talent coming in. And this number down here, replacing an employee can be upwards of 200% of their salary. And you're thinking, well, Taylor, what are you talking about? It doesn't cost that much. What's factored in there is one, again, just any type of advertising dollars you're spending on hiring and replacing an employee, the amount of time, again, when that job is open, you've got, extra burden that's falling on your existing staff. As you get someone in, now you've got the training, ramp up time. So it literally can be whatever their salary is, it can be up to double that cost. So, what's causing people to leave? And one of the things I want you to understand as an employer, and let me look here, I'm going to look at the chat real quick to see what type of businesses. Okay, roofing, digital marketing, medical credentialing, tax preparer. Okay, perfect. If you all, again, as I'm talking, if you drop in the chat as well, let me know how many employees, if it's kind of you and a couple, or how many employees you have. So I can kind of tailor as I go based on number of employees you've got. But what you got to understand is there, with people leaving your organization, a lot of times that's preventable. And I want to talk to you about the preventable things that you can do. So there's three things on there, and they're not actually in order, but there are three top areas that people are leaving for. And I'm going to walk you through that. So lack of career growth. A lot of times, you have an employee that, and they may have been there for a while, and they just kind of reached the top of the point with your organization. You best believe many times they may be looking if they don't see a growth opportunity. If you have a new hire that comes on, and especially Gen Z, if you are hiring Gen Z, they are looking for a career path. They are looking for growth. If you don't let them know what that path is, if they can't see it clearly, they will leave. I was listening to a presenter who specializes in Gen Z in the workplace a couple of minutes ago, and one of the things he said, which was shocking, is that with Gen Z, you have to prove to them every 3 months they are going through, am I going to stay at this job? They are going through in their mind confirming, okay, what does this job have? What is it providing me? Am I happy? Do I see growth opportunity? Of course, with Gen Z, something that's really big is, what you are doing to give back socially and in the community. And it is every 3 months they are looking at trying to justify, are they going to stay or are they going to leave? And again, a lot of that reason is if they don't see a clear growth path with your organization. Burnout and poor work-life balance. And I know, and again, I see it all the time when I'm speaking with business owners and HR managers who may have a hiring freeze, because of again, back to the economy or things like that. What that does is, again, it's putting that extra burden on existing staff, who's getting burned out. But if you have employees where, they're not able to take time off with work, it is just go, 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 go from the minute they walk in to the minute they leave. If they're being blown up, because now with the digital world we live in, employees don't get to disconnect. So if you're sending, emails in the middle of the night and expecting them to answer, and oftentimes just sending an email in the middle of the night, even if you've told them don't answer, it's an additional stress on them, and it's impacting their level of burnout and poor work-life balance. And this is a huge reason too that people are leaving, again, more so post-pandemic, because they have realized life is too short kind of to work under those conditions. So that's the big reason they're leaving. Ineffective or negative management. That's the number one reason people leave. It's because you got bad managers. Or real talk, you as a business owner may just kind of the way business is conducted, the way you treat employees, they may take it and perceive it that it's negative, that it's bad. But that is the number one. Ineffective and bad management is the number one reason that employees are leaving. The number two reason they're leaving is uncompetitive pay. And what I would encourage you to do is at least once a year do kind of a salary analysis. And that's one of the things too that we can help with at no charge, because we send out twice a year. And if you want this, you be sure to connect with me. Twice a year, we send out salary guides that are for the local market area. So if you're in the Austin area or the San Antonio area or Corpus, the South Texas area, or the Dallas and North Texas area, there's salary guides that we can send out to kind of help you see a competitive landscape in your area of what salaries should be and pay should be for various positions. You want to make sure you're evaluating your pay scales at least annually so you can stay as competitive as possible. And if you're not competitive on pay monetarily, you darn sure better look at how you can be competitive kind of with other things. And I'm going to get to that in a minute to show you how you can be competitive with some very low cost, benefit opportunities and benefit things that can help keep employees there and retain. Toxic or unsupportive culture. Just if, when an employee comes in, they don't feel like they're supported, or it's a toxic workplace where you've got, one or two people who's a cancer in the organization, that is going to impact employees. And I'm telling you, they are not going to stay like they would have before the pandemic. Structural chaos. And what I mean by that is poor, unclear roles. So if they were hired to do this particular job, and they've got like this job description. But now you are like completely changing things, you're adding a lot of things, you're having them do different things. They don't feel that it's clear to them that they are operating in a clear role. So they don't want to be in structural chaos. And then lack of recognition and engagement. That's the third reason that people leave. One of the things you hear about is, and we've heard about for years, is how disengaged employees are, how they're showing up to work. And, they're just there, they do enough to get through what they need to. But what you want to do is you want to be able to have employees who are completely engaged, who are completely bought in to your organization. And you'd be surprised, we're going to talk about a few things, how you can do so many things from a recognition standpoint and engagement standpoint that cost very little. Now, what you're up against as a small business, and then trust me, I understand, you're going up against some of the bigger companies that are out there that have that they can pay more, they've got better benefits, they've got more resources. But what makes you different? And these are things you need to highlight is, as a smaller business, the superpowers you have, because you've got people who are looking for this, is you've got flexibility. You have typically closer relationships. A smaller number of employees is going to give you, again, you've got closer relationships with our team here with Spherion. We've got a small team. I think we've got 8 full-time employees. So we are truly like family. There's faster decision making than in corporate America. I hated bouncing my head, hitting my head against the wall of that corporate structure, of that bureaucracy. That when you want to do something, you got to go against that bureaucracy. Often you don't have new ideas, and different ideas aren't accepted. Kind of when you're at that in that corporate environment. But you can look at that, and those are things that you can talk about to help retain employees. Again, that faster decision-making process, and again, that ability to make work personal. So let's get down and start looking at strategies. So number one strategy is you have got to be serious about career growth. You have got to be able to have your employees have a career path. If you don't have employees yet, and you're going to be, your plan is in the next year, the next couple of years to bring them, start bringing employees on, you've got to give them a career path. You've got to make sure that they can see, because like I said, that's one of the reasons that they're leaving is not seeing that career path. So some low cost ideas in thinking on, okay, how do I get serious about career growth and show my team, show employees, show future employees, potential employees I'm serious. Number one, low cost ideas. Have quarterly growth check-ins. Okay, but Terry, what does that look like? On a quarterly basis. And if you need to, if you got too big of an organization, or it just stretches you with too much time, then look at maybe twice a year. But have a meeting with the employee, and it doesn't have to be a 2-hour long meeting. It can be something that's 30 minutes. Have a meeting and check in with them on what are the areas that they want to grow in. What skill sets do they want to learn that's going to help them, in their current role, and help them be able to contribute even more to the team. You want to find out, what's their end game? What, they may be here at this level, at this position. What position are they trying to get to? So then you can start building a growth track for them. But you won't know anything unless you're sitting down and having those active conversations. And we're going to talk about how AI can help you with that. If it's something you haven't done before, and again, in doing these, kind of being serious about employee growth and giving them a career track to develop on, Chat GPT, and you can use the free version, can absolutely help you with that. Just by putting in, hopefully, many of you hopefully are already using Chat GPT. Just putting in, I'd like to start getting serious about career growth. Give me 3 things I can start doing to help grow my employees, help get feedback from them on how they want to grow. again, you want to create those learning paths. And, as I said, you want to be able to use tools like, AI, Chat GPT specifically, because it's so easy to use, and show how a career path looks. You may not even realize, you may not, you may have an employee and there may not be a ton of steps in terms of the growth that they can have in terms of promoted titles that they can grow in, but they can grow laterally in skill sets. Don't underestimate. You've got to keep your employees engaged, and one of the ways you can do that, that's what I'm saying, find out what skills they want to learn, because you can help satisfy their need for growth. No, you may not be able to promote them year after year or even every couple of years, but you can help them, show them, give them a path to learn skills that are going to help them do better in your organization and be able to take on more roles and be able to do cross training things. And then one of the things I rarely see is you want to highlight internal promotion stories. So when you do have somebody that's promoted, you want to make sure you're putting that out everywhere, because not only do you want to see the internal team be able to see that, you also want to see your, the external. You want to be able to see, have the public see what you're doing and how you're growing. So what are some ways you can have, highlight these internal promotion stories? Number one, absolutely the lowest hanging fruit. Make sure you're doing social media posts about who was promoted. Make sure every town, city, you have a local newspaper. Many of the newspapers have a section that's dedicated, and oftentimes there's no charge for it, but it's dedicated to highlight different things where people are being promoted, they've gotten a new certificate, they've gone to a conference or something like that. Have that in the newspaper, but you want to highlight where these different things, so your organization is shown to be a growth organization. The next thing you want to be able to do is you've got to manage your managers. And like I said, the number one reason people leave is because of management, whether it's your leadership team or whether it may be you yourself. So you're going to have to look in the mirror in terms of how your organization is being managed. So some smart moves you can make in terms of kind of helping to manage your managers. You want to train your supervisors on soft skills and emotional intelligence. Will tell you, so few organizations, especially small businesses, because again, as the business owner, you're running around with 50 hats, and sometimes, a lot of times, it may not just dawn on you about getting the management team trained on the soft skills and on emotional intelligence. And some of the ways you can do that, you can actually, there's a couple of ways. One, kind of every community out there has in their community or nearby, you have a junior college. That junior college has a continuing education department. That continuing ed department often is able to set up different trainings for the workforce. So they do, and what you can do is you can tell them, hey, here's what I want to be able to have my team trained on, or my leadership team trained on. I need somebody to help come in and train them on soft skills, how to communicate better with employees. And they can often have somebody do that training. It can also be set up where there's grants through Texas Workforce Commission. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do is, work with your local Texas Workforce Commission, your local workforce solutions, and there's what's called a small business skills grant. Again, a small business skills grant. And they have where training can be provided, and it's paid for by Texas Workforce. You're not having to come out of pocket and do any of that training. So that's a great way, again, to be able to kind of upskill and train your managers. The other type of training that you all need is well, that I would suggest you have is conflict management training. Most people, and especially in smaller organizations, do not get conflict management training. It is so important because now is where we have all the generations working together. So at times you've got generational strife that's kind of happening and going on. There can often be in an organization cliques and things like that. So you need to have, especially your management team, trained, or the leadership team trained in conflict management. And it would be good if you've got a smaller team, just have the entire team trained on it. We did it for our office. Again, we've got an office of 8. We had somebody come in, do a 2-hour conflict management session. It was so eye-opening because we had in our team, we've got a large Gen Z group in our team. And so it's like Gen Z, 1 millennial, and then 3 Gen Xers. And so to be able to understand how each generation kind of typically works through conflict, different ways to communicate when you're having a conflict management time, those are things you really need to have. Now, skip level feedback sessions. So some of you may be saying, Terry, what on earth is a skip level, feedback session? What that is it is where, say, you as the business owner, let's say you as the business owner, and let's just say you have one manager, and you have a manager, and then that manager, of course, has a team of people. Skip level is meaning you as the owner are communicating and having basically a feedback session with the team, but without that manager being there. You're skipping a level, you're skipping that management level. You want to do that again if you have a team, because you want to start getting some kind of unsolicited feedback about managers. You want to be able to have employees feel comfortable that they can come talk to you. And again, you can do it in a group session. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one session where if it's awkward or anything like that, but it can be a group session. But you want that, manager that has oversight of that team. You don't want them there. You want that team again to feel like they can come and tell you kind of truly what's going on. Offer, and so 360 feedback tools. What I mean by that, and this is something again that ChatGPT can easily help you with by recommending some tools. But what 360 feedback is, if you haven't been through that before, that is when, so for example, it's seen a lot of times when it comes time for performance reviews to happen. Usually when a performance review happens, it is, the manager is reviewing that direct report that they have. What 360 feedback is, it is not just only feedback, say from the manager or from you as the business owner. It's where that employee is also getting feedback from, it might be from customers, from vendors, from their peers. So start spreading out where feedback is coming from. And it's going to give you a much kind of better view of that employee. And it's going to give them a more fair assessment, especially when it comes time to, performance time, for whether it is for promotion, whether it's for raises, because now you get to see feedback from more than just whoever that manager is. And it gives, other people an opportunity to chime in on how that employee is to them. And again, I said what you're looking at is if you can get feedback from customers, from a vendor if they interact with vendors, and also with their peers, their colleagues. And lastly, make it safe for employees to speak up. I have seen time and time again, I've been part of organizations previously where time and time again, people do not feel safe in speaking up. They'll come to you as the owner, or come to a manager or come to an HR person and say, somebody made them feel uncomfortable, that manager made them feel uncomfortable, or they don't feel they're being treated fairly, or whatever it is. And if you as the business owner do nothing, then that's not helping you. that's not helping that person, they're more likely to leave. So make it a safe to speak up environment. Now, the third strategy is flex where you can. And I trust me, I understand. Like I said, I work with a small team. You want to be able to, where you can, be flexible. And in terms of kind of looking at some of those areas and being flexible, look at flex time. Do your employees have the ability, when it's necessary? And I'll give you an example with us. If we have, an employee that has something coming up, and let's say they need, work Monday through Friday, typical, 9 to 5, but they have something where they want to, something coming up on a Friday, they have an event that they want to go to, they want to take off that, well, they want to be off that day, but they don't necessarily want to burn their PTO time for that. What we will often allow them to do is, instead of working 8 to 5, or 9 to 5, we'll let them do 4 10s where they can work, Monday through Thursday and work 10 hours that day. So we kind of, again, we give them that flex time. Personal time off options. And I'm putting this on here because this is something that came up from our employees. We didn't even think about it. And, our team said, we've got PTO, so we've got, vacation time, but they absolutely hated using their vacation time. And pardon me, 1 second. They hated using their vacation time when they were sick. Again, just it's something psychological. They wanted to have sick time, and we used to, like, back in the day, there used to be, sick days were more common. Now, a lot of employers, who provide time off, have just gone to this PTO bucket that's used for whatever, sick days, vacation time off, what have you. Well, you might want to talk to your team, see if it makes sense for you to kind of carve out, your vacation time and then, actual sick time, because it really did kind of affect them psychologically. Like I said, having to use their vacation days for sick time. And then life happens days. And I'm not saying, you need to provide a month worth of days off. Just look at how you structure it. So you still may have the same amount of time off, but you may call those days different things. Having some life happens days, just, 1 or 2 extra kind of floating days that they could have. If your team has the ability, or some people have the ability to work, if they're, in the office typically, but they have the ability to, hey, with the work that they do, they can work from home, a day if something's going on, and, where they can still get their work, do their work done, still be paid, but just be more flexible and work from home. Make sure you may have that as an option. But the life happens days, I was with a company, and again, this was more, this was a corporate company, but I was with a company who offered, we had 2 mental health days a year that we could take. And again, for any reason, we could just tell our manager, I need a mental health day, and put that time in. So look where you can be flexible. Number 4, look at making sure you're recognizing your employees. Like I said, that's the third reason that they are leaving, is there's not enough recognition. You may not think recognition matters, but it matters so much, and you can do it inexpensively. So, you can have a system of doing peer-to-peer shout outs. It is, if you've got a team meeting, a staff meeting, whether you meet weekly, monthly, quarterly, or what have you, you can have team members, you can solicit from from the team, hey, we want you to shout out anyone that you saw do a great job this month or this quarter. Kind of let them submit that, or, have a nomination, and be able to, again, have that shout out from a peer, because that means a lot when a colleague, a peer has their, an employee has their colleague be able to shout them out and say, hey, I see what you're doing, you did a great job here. Team-based mini rewards, that's something that it works really well for us and a lot of small businesses, because you've got the flexibility to do this. It really helps the team. So some of the things that we do is, we have a quarterly happy hour. Like I said, we're a team of 8, but we do a quarterly happy hour, get out, kind of, get away at the end of the day and just be able to enjoy each other as a team, have a few drinks or, have some appetizers, have some dinner. We also do a quarterly team, kind of a team bonding event, which is pretty cool. I mean, we've done escape rooms, we do different things just to get away and be able to bond as a team. And it can be, and you don't have to necessarily do it, say on a quarterly basis. If you want to set it up as a reward for accomplishing something, whether it was, twice a year or even once a year, that they accomplished something and now you've got this reward set up for them. Having public praise. I go back to, if you shout things out on social media, if you recognize your team on social media, that helps to feed that need for recognition so much. People want to be publicly praised for what they do. And consider having a wall of wins. If you have, if you've got a break room or you have an area, and just be able to have it, if it's an employee of the quarter, of the year, of the month, or what have you, have that set up. Another thing that we do we have a weekly staff meeting, and now we do our staff meeting virtual because our team is split into multiple locations. And with that weekly staff meeting, we started out by saying, having everybody tell what are our weekly wins. What win did we have last week? And it doesn't have to be professional. It can be personal or it can be professional. And that's a great thing. Again, that's something that's so simple that can be done, but it allows people to hear what others have accomplished, again, personal and professional. It allows them to be celebrated. Again, just as colleagues, a lot of times colleagues don't know some of the things that may be going on personally in somebody's life, where they talk about whether it's now they would know, of course, probably if their child graduated, but whether it was a graduation or they completed, some type of certificate that they were working on personally, or they did something. But that's a great thing that you can do. The fifth strategy is going to be, building your culture on purpose. Nothing is just haphazardly thrown together. So you want to kind of start with these 4 things. Number 1, ask yourself, as the owner, or as a manager, if it's a manager that's on, would you want to work here if you weren't the owner? And it's time to look in the mirror. You've got to have real talk with yourself. So, would I want to work here if I wasn't the owner? You want to be able to, and part of that building that culture is celebrate milestones. So as people hit different milestones with, service time with your company, every year that they're there, at the very least, publicly acknowledge. I go back to social media, announce on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you have social media, announce, Bob is in, has reached their 1-year anniversary or their 15th, year anniversary. Shout those things out. Celebrate milestones if they were promoted, if they received, some type of certificate, if they did something that that you can say, hey, this employee really moved ahead in their life. If they themselves, had gone back to school and graduated, or again, if you've got a younger team and they graduated, shout those things out. Address gossip, clicks, and conflicts early. You've got to shut that down. You have got to, because those things are like cancer when it grows. You've got to get that out. There's a book I'm going to recommend that you all read as business owners, and it really helps to shape how you're thinking about your organization. But that book is called From Good to Great. Again, from good to great. We just read it as a leadership team earlier this year. And one of the things it talked about is in terms of having, like the right people in your organization. And one of the things you've got to assess is, that's why it's so important to get people, they call it get them off the bus that don't need to be there. Don't just hold on to somebody because you need a warm body, but they're creating chaos because it will run away your really good employees. And then be transparent about goals and where things have changed. Um, Employees see and feel when things aren't right. And if you haven't been as much as you can, transparent with them, that begins to make them wonder, how stable of an organization are they in? How secure, is my position, with this organization. So when different things come up and you're going to take the business in a kind of a different route, be transparent when you're looking at that and when you're sharing those things. And then, so looking at some more just kind of budget friendly retention moves. Something that you can do that is often free is, again, if you have, a team that if they come into the office or they can get on virtually, look at having some periodic workshops that you offer, because this is going to build goodwill with your employees. So you can do things, you can have, a financial advisor do like a financial literacy, and it can be depending on where your employees are, it could be a very basic kind of like financial literacy. And it is good to do that type of like little workshop any time of the year, because you can set it for the beginning of the year, and it can be, financial literacy for or financial tips for 2026. It could be in the middle of the year because then it's mid-year financial literacy or financial tips. But that's a great way, again, because now you're starting to educate your employees, and you're going above and beyond than just saying, hey, you should just be happy because you're coming here and getting a paycheck. That's your pay. You should be happy. These are things that cost you nothing. Have somebody, from a wellness standpoint, come in and talk about, things that they can do to help have more work-life balance, how to kind of have better time management, how to take care of themselves physically, mentally, those sorts of things. And something else I would not have expected, but I do want to share with you that is a great, something really good to provide. If you have a brick and mortar location and you have, team members coming into the office, the reason I have a safety workshop here is we had someone from our local police department come in and kind of they did a training for us, kind of a workshop with us. They did a 2-hour workshop, but it was an active shooter training. And number one, if you got a brick and mortar place, you really need to have that done. But it was active shooter, and it was showing us, and if you have clients and customers coming into your location, you need to know, your employees need to know how to de-escalate a situation. If that, somebody, a customer or somebody comes in and they are very heated and very elevated. And so that's what this police officer did. He came in, again, walked through, what to do in an active shooter situation, how we de-escalate people who are, they're up here, how do we get them down? He did a walkthrough of our office, gave us tips and ideas of how to have a safer environment. So I would encourage you, again, if you haven't, reach out to your local police department and ask them, can they come and provide a training on, again, an active shooter and safety training for your team. Host of different little workshops, again, that you can provide. If you want to make it a lunch and learn where it's, in over an hour, bring in some pizza or something like that. Our employees, when we did that safety training, that had that officer come in, that was one of the best trainings they said they had ever had. And they really appreciated our franchise owners. Again, because we're locally owned franchise, they appreciated our owners bringing that in, because it conveyed to them, y'all care about us and our safety. So again, that's one more thing to help retain employees. Anonymous feedback forms, make sure you're getting feedback, whether you do it through, a survey or something online, but make sure it's anonymous, because no one is going to I'm not going to say no one, many employees are not going to be completely factual in how they feel if they're putting their name on it and it came from them. So you can do a Google form to get anonymous feedback as well. But and again, if you haven't done a Google form before, you could go to Chat GPT, or if you need to just Google it, how to do a Google form, or what type of anonymous feedback forms are there. Cross training, you may be thinking, okay, well, how is cross training helping to retain my employees? Here's how. Because remember, I said, with your organization, you may not be able to just jump employees up to, different promotions, every year, every other year. But that employee still has the need, they need to feel like they are growing. So if you are not, like say, able to promote them, in title and pay and all of that, on an annual basis, make sure one, you need to self-preserve your organization. So people need to be cross-trained just for that reason. But to fill that need that employees have for growth, cross-training can do that. Help, start training Sally in some of the responsibilities that Joe has. And like I said, so then when Joe's not there, Sally knows what to do and knows what's going on. So it's two-edged sword. It's good for the organization because the organization can continue to function, and it also feeds that need for growth from the employee. Another thing you can do, budget friendly, celebrate weird holidays. You can look up, if you just Google, you can look up those national holidays. And there's there's a holiday for everything. There's the, National Coffee Day, Bagel Day, Donut Day, Bring a Dog to Work Day, all those types of things. Pick out a couple during the year. And you may look quarterly and see what's on here that we can celebrate, that the team can celebrate. So if it is, you know, Throwback Thursday, they may, you may have people, again, depending on your organization, you may have to leave it for kind of a casual Friday if you've got a casual Friday. So you can have them come dressed in, attire from, from the decade that shaped them most. You can do so many different things, and especially because they've got, again, like the donut day, the pie day, the cake, National Cake Day. Yeah, bring cake and for your team on National Cake Day. So just little things like that that are very budget friendly, but lets the team know you appreciate them. Then I just got a couple more things to kind of go through, and I'll open it up for questions. You hear me refer to AI. You really can use, and I'm a Chat GPT fan, but you really can use platforms like Chat GPT to help you come up with customized ways and ideas to further the retention of your employees. So you can help kind of, ChatGPT can help brainstorm on, what are ways that I could retain employees? Here's my business. Here's how many employees I have. Here's like the makeup. I've got, one salesperson. I've got three people in management or whatever. And then ChatGPT can start giving you a plan, working with you to see, where there might be holes in what you're doing and how you can shore those up and how you can really position yourself as an amazing organization for, a new hire to come to and stay long term. So those are some really great areas there. Also with AI, I've got to tell you, another way you can stand out and retain employees is start training your employees with AI. And you may think, well, Terry, I'm not even using it myself. And I understand. Again, you can have training. If you need training, let me know. I can get resources to you. But how training your employees can be a retention tool is because employees are now, and people who are looking, potential job candidates, they are now looking at organizations and whether or not that organization is adopting AI. Because they know those organizations that do not adopt AI are going to quickly lose any type of competitive advantage that they have. When you have a team that knows how to use AI just in whatever role they have, and they know how to increase their, efficiency increase their productivity, it is automatically going to increase your bottom line. But when you do training and offer that, then those people are going to stay there. Because I've already seen it again in staffing, where job candidates have said one of the questions that they ask a potential employer is, how are you treating AI? Are your employee, are you allowing your employees to use it? Kind of what's your mindset? And they have told me if an employer is not using AI, and especially if they like banned their employees from using it at all, they are bypassing that employer because they know that employer is not at a competitive advantage. It's like Blockbuster versus Netflix. That's one of the candidates told me. They're like, I want to work for the Netflix type of company versus the Blockbuster company who again who thought they were all big and died out. The last thing I want to show you, last few things, is so having some action steps to be able to do. And look at over the next, maybe 10 days, how you can start implementing. And not saying you got to do these things in 10 days, but look at where can I, between now and the end of the year, start doing one or two of these things. Again, survey your team. You can use, like I said, you can use a Google form. You can find, Survey Monkey is another option, but it needs to be anonymous. Number two, schedule, and I don't ever see this being done. Schedule what's called a stay interview. And a stay interview, so you've probably heard of an exit interview. So when an employee leaves the company, you or an HR person or a manager, ideally, you try to talk to them and find out more details of why they left. Were there reasons they were unhappy? Why did they leave? A stay interview is the opposite of that. A stay interview is you are talking to an employee, and again, you don't have to do a 2 hour talk. It can be for 15 to 20 minutes. It could be for 30 minutes max. You want to know why they stayed. Why are they staying with you? And it's, asking them things like, what do you like most? What are the top three things, you like most about working here? You're trying to find out why they are there. Because one, that's giving you feedback and reinforcement, the things that are going well. You also want to ask them, and don't be afraid to, in this state interview, you want to ask them, what are reasons you would leave? Is there anything, is there anything that would cause you to leave? Because then you can start getting a pulse on things you may not realize are going on. Again, if it's bad management, if pay is not competitive, you want to start finding that out as well. Assign somebody, if you've got employees, as a culture captain. Again, somebody that's going to help you protect the culture. And then choose one process to simplify. Well, Terry, what do you mean by that? And this is where, again, ChatGPT can be great. If you can, because that's one of the great things about AI is it can help you start simplifying different processes. What that means is then you're going to start freeing up your time, start freeing up employees' time, where you all can be concentrating on things that are going to move the needle the most and make the most impact on your bottom line. So look to see if there's any processes that you can start to simplify to make the most of time and have a better ROI. So with that being said, that is actually, kind of all that I have, and I'm gonna open it up for questions, but I want you to understand you really have to develop a culture to retain employees. And you in this market, and the market's not getting better for hiring. You want to keep great employees and be able to bring on really, really good ones. The last thing is, and you'll have it in the packet that in my slides, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I share all types of information and resources. And I also put together a book, not a book, a little guide for you on, it's at that bit.ly, that bit.ly, my AI resources. If you go there, you'll see it. It's specifically for giving more information on how you can use AI to help employee retention. And it just kind of walks you step by step on some things you can do there. So I hope that's been helpful, but I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Terry. That was a lot of really great information. I hope everyone got some good kind of nuggets from there. We've only got about 5 minutes, so we've got time for maybe one question, maybe two. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat there, and we can get to that in these last few minutes. But thank y'all for logging on. And also don't forget, we do host these webinars every single month, with the exception, I think, probably of June. I don't think I'm going to have one for June. Yes, for June. But we will be back July and August. So keep a lookout for those. You can always, you'll probably get emails with that information, but you can also find it on our website when those are live and listed. But logging on, I don't think we have. I'm going to give it another minute or so. Doesn't look like we have any questions. And Terry, y'all saw Terry gave you her information there, so y'all need to get in touch with her any further. And also, I know she mentioned AI quite a bit. Great resource for AI. I'm gonna just give you some props on that, Terry. So if you guys need her for that, I would highly recommend that you reach out to her. Thank you, Heidi. Yes, sorry, I forgot to tell you, this is going to be sent to y'all probably within the next day, or I would say by the latest on Monday. I will try to get it out either this afternoon or tomorrow, but the latest Monday. So yes. Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you again, Terry, as always, for being our expert and really being a great resource for our businesses. And thank you, everybody who was on the call today. And please keep in touch with us. If there's anything that we can do for you at BBB, please reach out. That's what we are here for. We are a business resource for you locally to help you not just keep your doors open, but to thrive. So please reach out with anything that you need. You don't need to be accredited for us to have conversations and consultations. And we're happy to help you in any way that we can. So that's all I have. Thank you, Terry, and thank you everybody for logging on today. Bye, y'all.